Hey guys, and welcome back to Utility Sports. If you do enjoy NFL draft content, please go and subscribe. I want you to stay up to date with our latest content. I'll give you a second right now. Please go up and hit that subscribe button. It's really important to us. We are on the road to 1K subscribers, so if you could do that, that would be great. Now, jumping right into the video, we have the New York Jets sitting here at pick 33. This is a second round mock based off of the continuation of our first round mock that we just put out. And looking at the Jets, we had them take Trevor Lawrence, and then we also had them take Travis Etienne. So at this spot, once again, you are looking to help Lawrence out. And Terrace Marshall Jr., who is a really nice red zone threat, will be going here at pick 33 for the Jets. You have to give Trevor Lawrence a weapon, and who better than Joe Burrow's former counterpart, Terrace Marshall, who's a guy that he has a knack for the red zone. He's able to run really nice routes. I like his game overall. Unfortunately, he did opt out midway through this season in college football, so we didn't get to see as much of him as I would have liked to. I would have really liked to seen him in the Florida game, the LSU and Florida game, but that's just how it goes. So now we are at pick 34. We have Jacksonville on the clock, and one of Jacksonville's biggest holes is the secondary. Obviously, they have to fix that. Their safety position's a disaster right now. They ended up moving Ronnie Harrison to Cleveland. So at this point, I think it really makes sense for Jacksonville to look at that safety position, and Trayvon Merrick from TCU, a guy who's able to fly all over the field, definitely can be a replacement for either Jared Wilson or Wingard or whoever it may be in the secondary. Daniel Thomas got hurt this year. He was a player from Auburn that I really liked that Jacksonville has. So for the Jacksonville Jags, I do have them going with the safety Trayvon Merrick. And now with the next pick, we have the Cincinnati Bengals. There's a lot of uncertainty with A.J. Green's future in Cincinnati, but I think it makes a lot of sense for them to look at the wide receiver position considering this. They do have T. Higgins, and they also have Tyler Boyd. But I think the next guy that we can look at is Chris Olave, who's going to give Joe Burrow a deep threat. He's been phenomenal with Justin Fields at Ohio State. But I think if you're Cincinnati, you get a guy who can really take the top off the defense. And he's definitely a guy that can do that. And I think he would really fit in well with Joe Burrow and that offense. I really think that Chris Olave would be a phenomenal selection with their pick. Now we're looking at Dallas. And for Dallas, personally, I think you want to keep working on the secondary. There's some questions about the offensive line, but I think overall their offensive line will be okay. I mean, they've been extremely injured this year. And I think that they do need to look at safety position. Javon Holland's a guy who is a very well-rounded player. He's not elite at any single thing, but he's a very well-rounded player. He's going to give consistency to that Dallas secondary. And I really like that selection a lot for Dallas, considering they are trying to build up that secondary. In the first round, we gave them Surtain. Now we give them Javon Holland. Overall, that secondary is looking better and better. Now here at pick 37, we have the Chargers. And one of the biggest needs for the Chargers has been tackle, and that's been a consensus throughout all of these games that we've seen. They've struggled at the tackle spot. I think Liam Eichenberg is a really good pick out of Notre Dame for them. Going to get some consistency out of the tackle spot, probably going to play left tackle. Then you're going to have Bulaga play the right tackle spot. I think that's phenomenal for the Chargers. You've got to keep protecting Justin Herbert at all costs, and Eichenberg's going to be phenomenal for them. He's going to, like I said, give you some consistency at that tackle spot, which they haven't had for a while now. Now looking at the Carolina pick, we are going to look at the linebacker spot. I think for Carolina, it makes a ton of sense to go with the linebacker at this point. Obviously, they had lost Luke Kuechly due to retirement, but they've had some inconsistent play at the linebacker spot. But getting a guy like Dylan Moses, who last year very well could have been a first-rounder, is a good selection for them. You want to keep improving that linebacking core and that defense in general. In the first round, we had them select the quarterback, Zach Wilson from BYU. Now they come back in the second round and once again address that defense, which is what Matt Rule's been trying to do for his football team. They spent a lot of picks on that defense last year, and Jeremy Chin has obviously panned out. So I think an athletic linebacker like Dylan Moses really works for the Carolina Panthers. Now we're at pick 39. We have the Falcons, and For the Falcons, it's going to kind of depend on contract situation. We don't know if Todd Gurley is going to be back next year, and that leaves a lot of things in the air for them. I think they could also look defense. Don't get me wrong. I think they, once again, could look at another edge spot. We had Kwity Paye go to them in the first, but I think they could look edge once again. I think one of these guys would make sense. But for the purposes of this mock, we're going to assume that Todd Gurley is not back, and we're going to have them select Javonte Williams. And Williams is a guy that really impressed me on tape, especially in the pass catching department. He's been phenomenal this season. And last year, he was, I think, the first player since 1996 to have 100 rushing and 200 yards receiving in a single game. Overall, Javonte Williams is really, really impressive. And some people even think that he can play slot wide out. Very, very impressive prospect here for Atlanta. He gives you a pass catching option out of the backfield as well. So now we're sitting here at pick 40. We have the Miami Dolphins. And for the Dolphins, I think it's about protecting Tua. I think they do need interior offensive line at this point. I think a guy like Trey Smith will offer up some protection for him. They have been making some moves in order to protect Tua. They have drafted some linemen last year. I think it makes a lot of sense for them to come back and take another lineman, protect the interior for Tua Tagovailoa. And honestly, Miami just continues to build off of all these draft assets that they have. Now we're at pick 41. We have the Philadelphia Eagles. And I think the Eagles, considering we went with the nice weapon Jamar Chase in the first, I think you could look at guys like Zaven Collins, Nick Bolton, some more guys in the linebacking core. I think Philly wants to rebuild that linebacking core. They've obviously lost some people, but for the purposes of this, I will have them go Zaven Collins, who's been a really late riser in a lot of mocks. Tulsa has been, this is one of the best years that they've had in over a decade. So Zaven Collins is a nice prospect for them, and Philadelphia is going to want to continue to build that defense. They did go offense in the first. Now they're going to come back and select a defensive player. Now we have the Giants here, who do need some edge rushing help. I think Jason Way is going to be a guy that can do that for them. New York, in the first round, we had them go with Devontae Smith, the wide receiver out of Alabama. Now they're going to come back. They're going to select defense. And I think it's really important for them to get an edge rusher to offer up a more consistent pass rush for that New York Giants team. Now at pick 43, we have the Detroit Lions. We did have them go wide receiver in the first based off of value. But now we are going to look at the front seven of the Detroit Lions, which has had some issues all year long. You could look at the interior of the D-line. You could possibly look at an edge rusher. I don't think that is as big of a need. They've had some guys like Romeo Okwara step up. And so for the Lions, I think they do need a linebacker at this point. Nick Bolton's going to be my selection out of Missouri. Once again, another late riser, but for the Detroit Lions, it's about improving that front seven because they've had a lot of issues. But if you're able to kind of clean that up a little bit, Detroit's kind of a borderline team. Are they contenders? Could they make the playoffs, or are they just a pretender? There's quite a few things that Detroit needs to clean up, but I think they are heading in the right direction. It's a good thing that they fired Patricia and Bob Quinn. So we're going to see, with the next general manager and head coach, what direction they go in. Now at pick 44, we have the 49ers, which it's been pretty clear that they do need a corner. Richard Sherman will likely not be back next year, so I think that opens up the door for son of a former player, Asante Samuel Jr. out of Florida State. He is definitely going to be a guy that can be a contributor day one for the 49ers. Obviously, you're losing Richard Sherman. You need to ensure that that cornerback position is filled. Asante Samuel Jr. definitely does that for the 49ers. Now we're at pick 45. We have the Denver Broncos on the clock. I think they are going to look to improve the offensive tackle spot. Obviously, I think the right tackle's more of the concern in here. I think Alex Leatherwood offers a really nice option for them in the second round. They didn't have to hurry and jump on one in the first round. They were able to let the board kind of fall to them. They took Caleb Farley in the first for us, and then now in the second round, we're going to have them come back and select a tackle. So I really like that for Denver. You don't have to jump on one right away in the first round. You're able to let another one fall, and they end up getting the corner in the first and Caleb Farley, and then now you get yourself a tackle. Now at pick 46, we have the Jags again. A position of need has been tight end for quite some time. They haven't been able to get consistent play out of any of their tight ends. We have Tyler Eifert going into his contract season next year. I'm not sure the likelihood that he'd be back, but Pat Freiermuth from Penn State will be a consistent pass catcher for the Jags. Whoever the next quarterback is, it's probably going to be Justin Fields, who we did select in this draft. You need to get him a consistent target at tight end. Obviously, we don't know for sure if Eifert will be back or if they'll cut him before the start of next year because of his number. But regardless, they do need to select a tight end. They tried a couple of years ago with Josh Oliver, and he's had a ton of injuries, so that really didn't work out for them too well. So at this point, I think a tight end like Freiermuth, who's still here at pick 46, makes a ton of sense. Now we're looking at the New England Patriots. We have Christian Barmore, who could be a really good option for them at pick 47. They do need to improve the interior of that defensive line. It has really, really struggled. I think Barmore is going to be a really good power rushing defensive tackle for them. Gives them potentially a little bit of pass rush in the middle of their defense. And honestly, New England once again has had some issues with opt-outs and players, not being here this year, obviously. But I think that interior D line is probably their biggest need, under the assumption that they do have a quarterback for next year, whether they stick with Cam Newton or if they decide to sign a free agent. It really depends. But I think Barmore makes a lot of sense for New England at 47. Now we're here at 48. For the Chicago Bears, we did have them go quarterback Kyle Trask in the first. Now I think you can kind of look at the offensive line. You need to continue to build that offense. The defense is fine. I think they have, a good defense, but I think on offense they have some limitations. But I think it's really important for the Chicago Bears to select an offensive lineman, in particular Jalen Mayfield from Michigan. If you're Chicago, you got to protect your franchise quarterback when you draft him in the first. You come back in the second, and that's how you do it. Now we're here at 49 with the Las Vegas Raiders. And the Raiders have had a ton of issues rushing the passer this year. They have not generated very much, but I think that if they go Aiden Hutchinson, that could help that progress a little bit. We obviously know that Max Crosby is a good player, and Farrell has not had a ton of success in terms of sack numbers. But for the Raiders, I'm not exactly sure where they want to go with that pick. If they do want to, continue developing their edge rushers that they have currently. It's going to be interesting to see what Mike Mayock does with that pick. Now we're at pick 50. Baltimore is a team that I definitely could see going with the safety, Richard LeCounte III. He's a guy that will be able to replace Earl Thomas. They got to keep improving that defense, obviously. They have one of the better rosters in the NFL holistically, but they have been kind of missing out on that safety spot, and I think LeCounte gives them a really nice option at safety for them. Now we're here at pick 51, and if you're Washington, you did select your franchise quarterback in the first round in Mac Jones. Now you have to come back, and once again, kind of like the Bears, you have to protect him. So why not bring in Dylan Radins from North Dakota State University? I think he will be, a day one starter. He's going to be able to plug in and play on that offensive line for the Washington football team. And I got to be honest, I think that would be a good selection. You have to protect your quarterback. And for the football team, it's going to be tough to come across another tackle, a little later on. You're going to have a little run on the tackles probably in that second to third round. You want to ensure that you get one with pick 51 if you are Washington. Now we are at 52. We have the Arizona Cardinals. They do have a need at corner. I had them go Jay Tufele, the defensive lineman, in the first, but now I think they're going to come back and take Tyson Campbell from Georgia. Once again, you got to keep improving that corner room. Byron Murphy, you have Patrick Peterson. We're kind of unsure of the certainty of where he will be next year. It's probably likely that he's around in Arizona, but you have to kind of have some insurance policy on that as well, and they could coexist. So I think Tyson Campbell and the other two corners will coexist on that defense, and I think that makes a lot of sense at 52 for Arizona to get another corner. Now at 53, we are looking at Miami's next selection. I think that they could look at the running back spot. I really do. I understand that they like Myles Gaskin. And I think that Chuba Hubbard will be a good pick at this spot. Before the year started, he was almost a consensus number one running back, if not number two running back. But he's had some obvious struggles. So has Oklahoma State, as holistically. But Chuba Hubbard, I think it was over 2,000 yards last year. But he was an absolute beast for Oklahoma State last year. Had he opted out before the season, he would have likely been end of the first or early second round pick. But now with how the season went, he falls a little bit in the second round. But honestly, that's a good place to be. Miami is putting it all together. They have a lot of nice pieces. So Chuba Hubbard with that 53rd pick. Now at pick 54, we have the Buccaneers. And I think that they could really look to replace Ndamukong Suh in the sense of they cannot really afford to re-sign him in terms of dollar amount. I think they're going to go Jordan Davis from Georgia. Then Ndamukong Suh is going to command more money than they're able to pay him. So honestly, if you're Tampa Bay, you have to keep that number one run defense up. And by selecting Davis, you're kind of ensuring that you're getting a guy under contract at that position. Obviously, they're not going to be able to bring back Ndamukong Suh on the price that he wants. So I think it makes all the sense in the world at pick 54 to do that. Now we're sitting here at 55 with the Indianapolis Colts. In the first, we had them select a tackle. In the second round, we're going to come back and kind of hedge for another potential free agent. T.Y. Hilton will be a free agent at the end of the year. We're not sure if they're going to really re-sign him. It's kind of up in the air at this point. I haven't heard anything on the contract situation, but I think Rondale Moore is going to be a nice plug-and-play guy. He's definitely a player that very well could go earlier in this mock, but I think Rondale Moore is going to be the perfect fit in that offense, going to kind of be able to fill in that T.Y. Hilton role. I understand that they have Michael Pittman, and they also have Paris Campbell, but you have to add another wide receiver into the mix for whoever the next quarterback is, or if you opt to decide that Phillip Rivers is still your quarterback next year. Now at 56, we have the Tennessee Titans, and I think once again, this is going to come down to helping out Ryan Tannehill. We had them go edge in the first round. Now in the second round here, we will have Tennessee select Amon-Ra St. Brown from USC. He is one of the best run-blocking wide receivers in the class, and that's actually really going to help out Derrick Henry. Aside from him being just a good receiver in general, he has that run-blocking ability for a run-first offense. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is a phenomenal fit in Tennessee. Now here at pick 57, we have the Seattle Seahawks. And the Seahawks here, I think that they do need some edge rushing help. They need to be able to rush the passer a little more than they have so far. I think Carlos Basham Jr. is a phenomenal fit with Seattle. Seattle's got to keep improving that defense. Russell Wilson and the offense are fine. And I think that, getting an edge rusher is where the Seattle Seahawks should go. Now at pick 58, we have the LA Rams. I think that one of their biggest needs is offensive tackle, obviously with the uncertainty of Whitworth and everything. I think Daniel Faalele is going to be the selection here because Faalele is a player that he's got the 6'10" frame. He's almost 400 pounds, and he is a big frame guy. So really it's all about upside with that selection. He's only been playing football for a couple of years, but you have the mold to produce him into a really, really good offensive tackle in this league. I think that's a high upside pick that the Rams would be banking on and willing to make. Now at pick 59, we have the Cleveland Browns, and Jabril Cox is a guy that I could see Cleveland targeting at this selection. They do need another linebacker, and LSU's have had their struggles defensively this year, and I think overall that hurt Jabril Cox. Once again, that's a guy that very well could have been higher in this mock, but just total struggles on the defensive side of the ball for LSU. Jabril Cox is a really nice linebacker. Don't let that fool you. And Cleveland, once again, they get a linebacker, keep improving the defense. In the first, we had them go edge. Now we get them a linebacker. I think Cleveland's definitely trending upward and in the right direction. Now at pick 60, we have the Buffalo Bills. And Buffalo here, I could see them going with an offensive tackle. I do think they need to address that, kind of hedge against. They do need another tackle in the mix. I think Tevin Jenkins from Oklahoma State would be a good selection here at this point. Buffalo, you got to keep protecting Josh Allen. And by doing that, you're able to Give your offensive line some flexibility. I really like that pick for Buffalo. Now at pick 61, we have the Green Bay Packers, which we did have them go corner in the first. Now I think we can see them come back and take another weapon for Aaron Rodgers. Kadarius Toney, who has been phenomenal at the University of Florida this year with Kyle Trask and Kyle Pitts. I think Green Bay, once again, could use another weapon, and Toney really fits the bill. He's the big play guy, and he's going to fit in nicely with Green Bay. Now at pick 62, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think that honestly, you have to be careful of the contract situations happening with the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line, especially with Villanueva. You have to protect yourself in case he decides to leave. I think Jackson Carman will be a good selection here, the offensive tackle from Clemson. If you're Pittsburgh, a lot of your success could be predicated off of, really good offensive line play, and you don't want to lose one of the strengths in your team. So you have to have a guy ready in the fold just in case some contract situations don't go well. Now at pick 63, we have the New Orleans Saints, who, they're a very good roster holistically, but Chaz Surratt will be the pick from North Carolina. I think he fits in nicely with what the Saints do. And honestly, if you're the Saints, you want to keep improving your defense. Obviously, we're not exactly sure what the quarterback situation, if they would go quarterback in this draft. It really depends on how they feel about either A, Jameis Winston, or B, Taysom Hill. At that point, that could really alter what they do in this draft as a whole. Now at pick 64, we have our final pick of the second round. Since Kansas City only has 2 wide receivers under contract next year, I think it makes sense to go Nico Collins from Michigan. For Kansas City, I think that it's a good decision. You have to be ready in case you're not able to bring back some of those guys. Obviously, they have to pay one of them. I'm not exactly sure what direction they're going to go. I feel like they will bring back some, but you do only have 2 currently under contract. So under that assumption, I think it only makes sense to get another wide receiver for Patrick Mahomes. So you have, another competent weapon for him. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please hit the like button if you did enjoy this video. Also subscribe. We do appreciate your support, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next video.